Welcome back, everyone, for another interview session by AirLyft. This is Omar, Head of Marketing at Kite. And today we have Dustin Lee joining us from the business development team of Evolution Land. Dustin, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate Omar having me here.
Thank you. And just as a precursor, could you just sort of introduce yourself to our community members?
Hello, my name is Dustin Lee. I'm part of the business development team for Evolution Land. I've been a part of the team for the last 5 months officially, but I've been part of the project for the last 3 years.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So, Dustin, so I just wanted to know, shall we begin with the interview now? So that, I'm sure our audience are eager to understand about Evolution Land.
Yes, proceed. Thank you.
Yeah. Perfect. So Dustin, could you just tell us something about your project and what it is that they're doing?
So our project is Evolution Land. Our Evolution Land is a cross-chain metaverse game that introduces different gameplays, such as in GameFi, so we use DeFi, battle systems, and we have virtual property and whatnot. The game started out as a idea for cross-chain interactions, and then eventually evolved and over time, and now we're introduced 5 different continents, where each is on its own blockchain, which is Ethereum, Tron, Hiko, Polygon, and Crab, which is the Darwinian network, which we're affiliated with. And we plan to expand up to 26 continents, and in which will be on other public chains. We plan on introducing, we're interoperable with other NFT projects, so we're going to introduce other NFTs into our game, which we previously have with Polka Pets and CryptoKitties. And then we're going to be introducing PvP very soon. We're on a closed alpha, so that's going to allow us to bring in those other NFT projects into our game. So it's kind of where we're at right now.
Awesome. That looks quite an extensive metaverse gameplay project that you have over there. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And now with such an extensive project, I'm sure you must be having an awesome team behind it. Can you just shed some light on the team members, the core team members behind the project?
Sure. So the team, the founders are both Alex Chen and Denny Wang. They previously were working on BitShares, the first decentralized exchange. So they have pretty extensive knowledge in the space, both in the early 2000, late 2010s. I think Alex's started at 2011 blockchain space, and Denny, I think it was 2015, I believe, and they met BitShares. So as of 2018, they introduced Evolution Land, and then the team itself, we have various team members and developers, and a huge community behind our game, and various partnerships that we've been able to acquire these last several months of the PvP coming out. So hope to have some more community involved here.
Awesome. That sounds great. Now, when I was reading about your project, it was written that there are different gameplays about your project. Could you just give a little bit detail about those gameplays specifically?
Oh yeah, for sure. So our first introduction to the game, we had breeding. So the apostles were these characters in our game. We use them for various aspects of the game, such as battling or mining resources from the land. And then we introduced mining resources. So we take the NFTs, or basically stake them on the land, so they're like somewhat composable, so you can put them in the land. And then with the those apostles mining the resources, that's another gameplay, including drills, which are props that kind of enhance the efficiency of the mining. And then that's just the core resource aspect of the game when it comes to gaining the resources. And then extending from there, we've introduced the battle system with PvE, player versus environment, which allows for building the weapons system that we have. So you can forge the weapons utilizing the materials earned from the Apostle Venture, which is PvE. And so with that, then those items are available. And then with PvE, introduces COO, which is our essentially like a ticket to get into PvE. Those same tickets are used to access PvP. So with PvP coming out fairly soon, it should be coming out this month, use those tickets to access to battle other players, and then that's the casual gameplay. And then we're also introducing ranked gameplay, which then you be earning ring tokens, which is our native token, and also the tickets as well. So there's actually a competitive edge to it. But the only way to get the COO and the materials for the weapons and upgrades is you have to play PvE. And so it kind of combines all the aspects of the gameplay and just kind of adds to it as we progress.
Awesome, awesome. I've definitely been reading, and it's such a cool thing about all your different gameplays, and it's amazing, you know, there's so many aspects to it. That's awesome.
Yes.
So now coming to your token, which is the ring token, I'm sure it must be having some amazing utilities as part of your project. Could you just share some of those utilities?
So yeah, so ring token is the native token of Darwinian network, which is the network that's it helps the kind of facilitates the technological aspect of like the bridging and the cross-chain interactions. That's a whole different aspect of Evolution Land, but the ring token is the native token of Evolution Land. So various aspects as purchasing land. You can also earn ring from lottery. So every time you, if you're bidding on land, or if you're breeding apostles, you receive lottery points. These lottery points used to receive ring tokens. You receive ring tokens through, you know, if PvP with the battles, you know, gaining resources, selling them in the market, the liquidity pool. You can add, you know, resources in ring tokens or in ring tokens. So there's various aspects of ring token, and we haven't fully utilized it completely yet. But at its core value, it has like a lot of potential, because not only in the game, but you can also use it for the main Darwinia too. So it has its own separate ecosystem using the same token. And we also utilize bridges with the ring token on the 5 chains I mentioned that we're built on. Hiko, Polygon, and Ethereum, and Tron, and Crab. So you're able to use these bridge to interact with the ring token as well. So it's on various chains, and it's been available since 2018. So we've been quite a bit invested in the ecosystem for a very long time. So we've seen various, you know, bull and bear markets at this point, you know. So it's nice to see where ring tokens actually still very useful, and still, you know, going to be used in Evolution Land. So yeah.
No, those are some awesome utilities. And right now, currently, of course, you know, we are all sort of facing the brunt of the bear market. You know, it's a tumultuous time, you know. So obviously,
Yes.
I'm sure we're going to come out of it stronger than before. I hope soon enough. Fantastic.
Yes. Yeah, it's the beauty of the space is that it really separates the people that are only incentivized by the financial aspect, and teams are just building, you know. And over the years, our team has just built, and that's actually it's been the biggest strength, but also has been kind of hard on the marketing, because we've only focused on building a project and not so much marketing. But over the last year or two, we've been marketing more. So we've been being able to bring the community together and like really be able to hone on to our skills. So we've been able to see like how the market changes and the ecosystems change, and we've been able to adapt with the change.
Awesome. No, that's awesome. Now, with all these things, from developing to marketing to creating the utility of your ring token, I'm sure there must have been a lot of challenges for your team along the way. So what has been the biggest challenge for you guys so far, and how did you guys overcome it?
So the biggest challenge early on, I would say, is recognition, because a lot of older projects either have, you know, kind of faded away because of lack of development, or just the lack of interest of the, the retail investor. So the biggest aspect I want to say is that we've innovated, and we've been able to kind of been very malleable, very flexible in the space, and understand the core technology. And we're gaming space, they don't always see the underlying technology. So you kind of have to hide it under the hood on some of the aspects we see with Axie. And some of it, didn't work out because of other reasons. But it's still, viable product. But we have been focused on more of the complete decentralization. We understand that regardless of where the market's at, decentralization will always come back to the main accountability of the project. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to feel like the team is holding us hostage. We want to be able to have that liquidity, flexibility, and kind of maneuver around. And if you, depending on whatever chain you're on, we're very chain agnostic. So the narrative has been EVM chains, and that's understandable. But we're very hybrid in that space. So I want to say is the hurdles is the recognition, underlying technology, and still sticking to our guns of decentralization, which has been kind of hard on us because where other teams like Axie or other projects, they've kind of skipped a couple things. Decentralization we seen with the Axie hack affected them very big. And we understand that bridges is very important and security is the most important. So, but overall, I want to say that where we're at in our position is that we've luckily have seen the other side of it, and now that we are kind of pivoting towards like PvP and construction, our underlying technology is built so well that now we can focus on the things that people recognize. If it's building on land, construction, or player versus player, those are big aspects. Are very competitive, and we've seen this with various projects that have worked out pretty well. So we see that as enticing, but we don't want to take away from the decentralization. So the beauty is that we're just building regardless of the direction of the crypto space, and we understand that everything kind of goes in ebb and flow. So it kind of goes up and down in waves. We've seen this come and go with the NFT space, but I think the teams that stick around and keep building will see the light of day. They will see everyone come back around. And I think that's the biggest thing is like just keep building, and just regardless, like just be incentivized to just keep doing it regardless of what others are doing. We just got to keep going. So I think we're in a great position, to be honest.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now coming to the next question, Dustin, when I was reading about it, we just wanted our community members and myself as well to understand, what sort of dApps can be built using the open interface and the SDK being provided by Evolution Lab. And also, are they being incentivized for building dApps using these SDK?
Actually, that's a great question. We actually just released some information about grants. So yeah, I want to touch on the dApps first. So in general, you can add dApps on top of Evolution Land in both a hyperlink, or you could essentially integrate it. And so we just released a grant for anyone that does develop on Evolution Land. So anyone that does decide to, you can build fully integrated dApps that can be added to Evolution Land, or a third-party dApp, which is totally fine as well, that you can attach to the land. So the land is kind of a basis of those either hyperlinks or dApps that are built on it. And eventually Evolution Land will become a layer 1 chain. So anybody can build on it as a blockchain. So it's kind of like early in that aspect, but we've introduced building dApps on our land for actually a very long time, since the beginning of Evolution Land. And we're definitely like a pioneer for that, where other parachains, or not parachain, but chains in general were having Dapps built on them, we actually had our game being able to build Dapps on top of it. But yeah, the grants, it's very easy, very easy. Just have a working application, Dapp, and whatever functionality that we'd like to add to it. We just had a breeding simulator for the apostles, so kind of the randomization and kind of figuring out what's the best results. But we're very early on the Dapps being built. And we also have another blockchain kind of actually built on top of that. So technically you could build out a whole ecosystem with us with Evolution Land. And pretty much any product is very useful. So definitely would love to provide more information on that if you guys would like to know.
Of course, we would definitely love to know more, and we will definitely dive deeper into it. So also just wanted to understand, after having read your roadmap, you're building two different continents, one which is the Ethereum, the Atlantis continent, and one which is the Byzantine continent, which is for Tron. From a functionality point of view, are they both going to be different? Is it that the evolution on these lands depends on what Dapps developers are developing in the respective ecosystems?
So Byzantine and Atlantis have been previously built. So what we're doing is, as we progress through the last, I would say, 3 continents, we've introduced a lot of new features. The first 2 continents kind of introduced like the first generation of features, version 1 map, and kind of a limited kind of long-term aspect of the game, obtaining resources and mining, obtaining land, which is, a very finite resource in the game is land. So those particular ones are actually going to be revamped with the new features. With the cooperation of Darwinian Network, which is the bridge hub, we're utilizing the bridges and the technology to access these continents to make it multi-chain. So then we can introduce other features into these that we've introduced previously, like PvE and PvP, which is actually we're going to be releasing on Eden. So that continent is going to be the first one to have PvP. So that those particular continents are similar. They're similar in gameplay, of course, but of course the lack of features of the new continents. But there's a very early investors per se, and early players in the space that are waiting for us to incorporate the new features. So it's very exciting to be able to add that back to the old players, where we could all like be able to play each other on different continents. So I want to say it's very similar. There's various things that are different. I want to say that are some of the governance lands. So there's specific reserve lands that were only on different continents. There's an early concept of the other lands that had reserve lands, and now they're very specific in the new ones, and they weren't as obtainable. So that's another aspect, and different promotions that occurred at those times. So certain apostles, or the characters in the games, are only available for those continents. So there's certain like variations of the game that because the resources are very high on one end, the other ones are fairly new. We're going to be able to work out some balancing between all the continents once we have this cross-chain bridges and whatnot. So it's pretty exciting actually. But yeah, I would say it's similar gameplay across the board. Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. Also, another cool thing is I wanted to know, and I'm sure the readers wanted to know, is about your apostles, which play a very crucial part in the evolution land, because as they're the ones responsible for mining. So from a consumer point of view or a buyer point of view, could you just explain exactly what they would be breeding and drilling, and for whom will they be fighting the battles? Whom will they be fighting the battles with? Because as you see in the apostle marketplace, this is where participants will be buying the apostles from. And and how many different ecosystems will they be available in as well?
So yeah, apostles are very crucial to the game. Those are the characters in the game. Um, so they, as mentioning, there's various gameplays with them, the mining, the resources. So you have to have apostles on the land for drills to work or props. We'll introduce more props in the future, but the drills are complementary to the apostles. So if there was no apostles on the land, the drills do not work properly. So, but yeah, apostles are used in gameplay such as PVE. So you have to have a team of 4 of them to be able to put them in the player versus environment. And then of course PvP, which you only have to use 1. So yeah, with the apostles, they have these generation 0 apostles. So if you know anything about CryptoKitties, they had generation 0 apostles, or not generation 0 CryptoKitties, and then as they breed, there's more generations per se. So it goes generation 1, 2, 3 as you breed them, but they have certain genetics, and so the genetic code, the genome is not you don't know it until it's bred to multiple generations. So you kind of pick the best apostles, say the best mining apostles or best apostles with attack, and then you breed them, and then you start getting these certain combinations of features. So they might have a different background, they might have similar facial expressions, similar features. There's a lot of cool variations, and the thing with apostles is not only are they like valuable when it comes to like stronger apostles or better mining apostles, they also have a collectible aspect to them because they have certain features. They're only bred into certain generations or genetics that are not carried over sometimes, or or it's time. There's a certain like events that happened in the past that you could only get these apostles for a certain time. So these certain apostles do have value beyond. We haven't even like scratched the surface on the collectible aspect, but based on certain features, they're very hard to get, but also combining with like such as the resource levels. So each resource, which is water, gold, fire, wood, and soil, these elements can be added into the apostles when you breed them. So the resources you get from the land, you can use them to add to the apostles to kind of make them stronger, make them more efficient for the certain resource. So if you're mining a resource such as wood, if your apostle has a higher elemental resource level, such as like 1 through 3, depending on if it carries it over when you breed it, then you'll have a better efficiency for mining. So those actual same features, the elemental levels, are actually helpful in the PvE and also possible PvP. So those elemental helps certain counter attacks to uh, the monsters in the battles. So if you have like a higher element for that day, the attribute, say gold, you have fire or whatever the counter is, you will have a stronger apostle in attacks for those particular monsters for that day. And so the apostles are very malleable per se. If you take newer generations and older ones, you can combine them, make different features, or even get better results. It's very random. We use Chainlink VRF for randomization, so it's actually on-chain randomization. There's no centralized counterpart that's choosing these particular variations. But yes, apostles. And they also have a life expectancy. So we haven't fully introduced it. It's called Harbinger Tax Mode. Harbinger Tax Mode in the grand scheme is basically, it's actually a real tax in real life, Harbinger Tax. But basically it makes it so if someone owns a piece of land or say an apostle, if they don't, if the apostle say passes away after a year or something, they have a life expectancy at a certain point, then someone else could actually buy that from them because of the valuation. So the market sets the value. So that's kind of what the Harbinger Tax Mode. So every apostle, first time you use them, it gives you the option to put in the harbor through tax mode. So if you don't do it, then you can preserve the apostle. If you do it, then you have a kind of a life expectancy. So we haven't fully introduced it yet, but future gameplay, apostles will have a certain valuation at the end of its end of its life cycle that will allow you to the player to revitalize it per se, or turn it into like a medal, like a trophy. So there's still a lot of like aspects of apostles that haven't even been fully introduced, even with construction. And we have these the lands on the border of every continent are called mystery lands, or mystic lands per se. And these lands in the future will be considered like porters. So these porter positions, like jobs these apostles will be able to transport resources or NFTs from different continents. So they're actually kind of like they tax transportation between different continents, and they receive some type of revenue. So that hasn't even been introduced yet. So there's like a lot of features with the apostles that haven't even brought to the surface. And then the PvP, it's going to have a very, competitive edge with apostles, and if you attach weapons, the forged weapons and items, that increases your abilities. So we're going to really see that competitive edge where other games have done very well. So I'm excited to see apostles being able to put them on a pedestal per se, and see the valuation of them in that sense. So excited.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, we're all excited to see, the evolution of Evolution Land as well, and how far it can go. Definitely. So from what I've been hearing about your project, it seems amazing, So I'm sure what you must have envisioned, that this is what you are aiming for. So what in the next 5 years, where do you see the project?
Oh wow, yeah, that's a great question. So being that we are part of a bigger project, like our bigger project is blockchain essentially. So I would see Evolution Land being facilitating NFT transfers, being able to be very very interoperable. So our goal for our entire ecosystem is to be a multi-chain ecosystem, in general. So for us to be a part of that, we are going to be having decentralized bridges for for NFT projects, and being able to expand to up to 26 continents, which is 26 chains. I don't know how far along we will be on that, but construction and the PvP will be quite invested at that point. 5 years, that's quite a bit of time. And we'll be introducing, of course, version 3, which we haven't fully implemented yet. So more of a metaverse aspect, fully immersive gameplay. One of our developers made a joke about the PvE being like more click, instead of like actually choosing your attacks and being more, more open to interpretation. So like a RPG per se. So I think we're going more in the metaverse aspect. We've seen other, projects like the Sandbox or even like DCL, Decentraland, but also being a complete, game, metaverse game. So I think in 5 years, we will have a fully immersive game, with the, traditional metaverse where everybody thinks is, and beyond, I'd say at least 15 to 20 different chains at that time. Ring token will be very accessible. More fiat on and off ramps, for people, and liquidity, of course, and yeah, a lot more projects invested in their game. Having more, other NFT projects in our game. PvP, and different gameplays, construction, of course, and yeah, I mean, 5 years, that's that's quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it's just such a revolving space, and involving, evolving, and yeah, I don't. It's hard to say because all these things are, a lot of it's pretty much built out. and we just have to just add those features. So yeah, just more partnerships and liquidity, I would think, like that's more chains. Yeah, more chains, liquidity, multi-chain, and NFT bridges. That's the biggest thing. Centralized NFT bridges, non-custodial. So yeah, I hope yeah.
Yeah, that pretty much answers it. Yeah. So it's been, honestly, I mean, there's so much of potential that we see in Evolution Land as well, and it's amazing, And obviously, we're glad that we had this discussion so that myself as well as our community members, can get a deeper understanding of what the project is all about and what their intricacies are and what their long-term goal is. So thanks, Dustin, for all that information. It really was a pleasure hosting you today.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you bringing me on here, Omar. I appreciate your community. Thanks for listening. Definitely check out Evolution Land, and I will let you guys know any more updates on that. So, thank you.